What's poppin'? It's your boy NFOMURK. Right back at it. Here we go. Um, I got a phone call from my friend Rockstar. I remember Rockstar from a few of the other little interviews or episodes. I meant to say. I'm sorry. Um, yeah, he called me and he was telling me about I think the alien video I made. He was telling me about the video. I said something about we at the height of our technology. We at the peak of it, right? And he said, "You don't believe that, do you?" I was like, "Why? What's up?" Well, I did believe. I still believe that, right? I believe that today in 2024, the technology that we have in our hands versus the technology that the technology makers have is two different, is years apart for the sake of marketing, for the sake of national security and military application. Right? It all makes sense. So, yeah, I believe that somewhere in this reality that they're dealing with some very, very high tech technology, right? So he was like, "Yeah, well, you know that the caveman probably thought the same thing with the height, what they say, with the invention of the wheel, right?" So I could tell that the way this reality is set up, you're going to hear stuff like that. They don't reinvent the wheel, and then they will show you the caveman chiseling the wheel, right? And somehow we think that that's what they're referring to. And in some regard, the wheel was a big technological advance for as far as humanity is concerned, right? But it's a different type of wheel that they're referring to when they talk about this wheel, right? We're talking about the wheel of time, the wheel that controls the reality, the, the wheel of time, right? It's sacred geometry composed of circles and straight lines, right? Which makes squares and triangles and other shapes come out of that, right? Now, this ties into the gematria, and this ties into numerology, and this ties into reading shapes and symbols and correlating the shape and the symbol to a sound and a color and a name and a personality and so forth. This is how the matrix unfolds itself to you. You understand? So as we learn more stuff, so the wheel that they're referring to is the wheel of creation, the wheel of time, the wheel that governs everything, right? They put it in a chart, in a circular like chart. Is how you, if you look at anybody who does astrology and tell you about what birth, what signs mean and all that. When you look at the chart, that's a circular chart. I'm gonna pull some illustrations up and show you how to show you these different wheels, if you would, right? And when you slice the wheel up, it looks like a pie, right? You got the like an X in the middle, or depending on how many times you put slices in it, right? You got that circle with as many slices in there. That is like a wheel, and then those lines are like spokes on a tire, on a wheel, on a car, right? It's spokes, and that wheel is the mother matrix, and then that out of that matrix we get our language, and that's what we speak. Spoke, wheel, tire. See how it all ties in. It's all there, right? The wheels of time, the way your watch is set up with circles, right? You can draw this graph out on your own, make a circle and put other circles around it equally spaced and so forth, and then all the little degrees in there will correlate to everything that a clock has, right? So the clock makers have found a way to put those gears in certain small little areas with precious metals, and that science of keeping time and tracking time is worth something to man to this day, right? So that's where we get that from, the wheel. So there's always a the people, or they do this on purpose, right? When they make a movie in biblical times, they show you Adam and Eve as real people. They show you God as this thing, and they know, shame on them, because once you go further into understanding, there is no imagery. You know what I mean? There is nothing. These are energetic principles that are constant throughout the reality that you need in order to create something that's going to help you in your journey here, right? Because don't forget, God is that sustains you. So whatever is sustaining you is good, or God. You see what I'm saying? So these forces, the water, the land, the animals, the air, all the stuff, the sun and all that, that's the stuff that was given to the all. So these are God's creations, right? Like the God's Son. The Son was given to us by God. Man can't own it, so it's God's Son. You know what I mean? And God so loved us that He gave His only begotten Son. Well, that's the little parable that man created to try to show you the reverence of the Son, right? And the big creator. You see what I'm saying? Without the Son, we life that we won't understand how to live without it. The Son plays a major part in our reality. You know what I'm saying? So these are what the ancient man, wise men has come to overstand and push back into the reality. Then somewhere down the line, somebody picked it up and started to just take it for face value. And the good news about that, because no one's trying to trick you, right? They're all trying to assist you. So the first story that you get is just designed for you to have pieces to talk about. You have to be willing to see these things differently. Always remember that on your journey, do not stay irons, don't stay stuck on one point of view and what it is. That would limit your whole view on this reality. You understand? So you must allow yourself other ways of seeing the same thing, right? So we're talking about the wheels of time and the spokes and how that creates the language and how that is the matrix. That's where the matrix comes in at, right? That's the key, right? So um, hmm, that we were talking about. Oh, so they will purposely misdirect these things, right? So when you watch Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, a snake talk to them, right? Now, when they tell us about God, they say God is omnipresent. That means everywhere at once, right? Which seems to be not true because in the Bible, once Adam and Eve became aware of themselves being naked, they hid, right? Then God came. Well, they hid while God was arriving, as if to say, because this is another way of communicating with like implication. I call it negative communication, shit that was said without being said. An emptiness, but it's saying it, but they didn't say it. You see? So when God came, they Adam and them hid. So how do they know that God was coming unless God made some type of noise on his way in? You understand? Now, then God asked Adam, "Where is thee?" So did God know where Adam was at? Did God know that Adam bit the thing? Was God testing Adam? This is what they would say. The scholars were, "Oh yeah, he was testing Adam." And there's no way to correlate that. There's no way to prove that he was, right? But they just want to tell you, well, God is all knowing. God is this. God is that. All right, cool. So now God asked Adam, how does he know he's naked, right? Then he told him about the fruit. And then the snake. The snake obviously doesn't talk. So from all these slight non-truths in this story, it instantly should let you know that this is a symbology. Everything that's going on is potentially going to turn into a symbol, right? So like Randy Moss played football and he did a particular he used to that particular position that he owned in that it was like cornerback or whatever. That particular was a safety, cornerback, wide receiver. I think it was wide receiver. I forget whatever role he played. He owned it so much that people saying you got mossed. I mean, it became a symbol. I mean, Michael Jordan, a little symbol. He's actually a human being that became the symbol. This is what happens. So this is the political. This is how everything turns political. It's what Kanye was trying to say on that Drink Champs interview when everybody didn't understand what he was saying. Right? We had Kanye was giving out so much information. It seemed like he was like just the information was just bursting out of him. So you had to take it in pieces in order to really understand it. But that's a whole nother conversation. So Adam and Eve, the garden, God being omnipresent and all knowing, right? He asked questions as if though he didn't know. He didn't know where Adam was as if to say he didn't know, and so forth. Right? The snake doesn't talk, so this is a story. What would it? How can we see this story different? Right? Adam and Eve is the male and feminine principle that it takes for come to bring into creation, right? The whole Bible is charting the mind, telling you how to deal with the mind. And because they're telling you how to deal with the mind, it also tells the devil how to deal with the mind. You understand? So it's a two-way street because your heart determines who you are. So you can read the same book and get whatever you want out of it, or you can, depending on your heart would let you would determine what you're reading. You see what I'm saying? What sticks out, what you're trying to be like, and so forth, right? But now, through further investigation, I got a thing for Masonic stuff. I got anything that has. I read pretty much every part of it: demonology, Freemason, philosophy, law, ethics. But I read it all, right? So, through further study, there's other ways that we could look at the Adam and Eve story, right? Now, Adam, like I said, male, female principle, or the left and right hemisphere of the brain, or the active consciousness versus the subconsciousness, right? And once you see it like that, it instantly changes. So you say, "So, Merc, what's the snake?" The snake is energy, right? The energy, the spirit, the movement, the growth, the way that life is, that pattern, energy, right? So Adam and Eve is also contained in the yin yang symbol, right? One side being Adam, the other side being Eve, and the line in the middle is the snake. The whole thing can be considered the fruit. Once bitten, you understand what's inside. You understand? So it's only right as the mind grows that it will become self-aware of its nakedness. Nakedness becomes a symbol for knowing and not knowing, right? So that's the black and white checkerboard, hence the yin yang symbol. Right now, when you see the Masonic background, you see the floor, the checkerboard, you're going to see that one of them is Adam, one of them is Eve. Not like you want to see that, but I'm saying that what it represents: knowing and not knowing, good and bad, so forth. All the opposites that create this reality. Right. So the garden is the mind. Right, and this is very important. The garden is the mind. Now, as a parent and as a particular member in the village, right? I consider myself a high-ranking member due to my age alone, right? Not nothing to do with anything else, just from the age alone. How many moons I collected, right? That when the little kids are looking at me, they're going to either pick to go my direction or pick not to go my direction, depending on my reflection, right? So because of that, I am in the seat of being a role model. So it is very important that because I understand this, right? I am the guardian of those underneath me, my own children. I'm the guardian of their mind. I'm the gardener of their mind, right? I have to police what goes into their fertile soil because they will grow that. This is where the seed turns into the fruit that was planted in their subconscious, which is the darkness, which is likened to the dirt. Then their actual growth is likened to a plant, and the seed is the information, the stuff that they essence, their paradigm condensed into all, and this is what it is. You understand? So a lot of parents, a lot of guardians are missing the mark. That's living in sin, right? To miss the mark is to live in sin. A lot of parents are missing the mark because they don't have a clue what they're doing. They don't have a direction in which they want to aim the children. And the result from that, they turn into thorns and thistles, something that does not help benefit the future, you or the child. The child becomes hard to touch, becomes hard to trim, hard to deal with, becomes a weed, it becomes a nuisance in the fabric of society. You understand? So everything, I heard someone say, I don't know if I heard it. I heard someone say, I read the Bible, and then I met the elder, and the elder said, "Did you see yourself in it?" And he said, "No." He said, "Well, read it again until you find yourself in it." He said, "I read it again, I didn't find myself in it." The elder said, "Well, find another one." And he trying to read it, but even though he actually did find himself in it, he says no, because that elder knows it's all about you. Anybody who's reading it, it's all about you. If you know how to see it, you will know the codes and know what each name, each person represents in the story. And then once you understand this energetic principle that they named Jesus or Judas or Mary or Joseph or John or whatever the name is, you would start to know. You got to do some research though. You definitely got to peel it back. And whatever answer you get, like I said, don't be content with that. Keep stacking them up. Keep stacking them up. And then eventually you're going to be able to cross-reference from your own life and get to see what's being said. But if you don't have anything to pair it against, you're just running around by the seat of your pants, right? Um, so I hope that was added some clarity or the Adam and Eve story and the misconception on that. This is the end of the day, it's all about mind control, right? That's the whole twist about Earth. It's all about who programmed who and what program you functioning from. You understand? A little while ago, um, I was going to talk about schizophrenic. And it seems like I'm all over the place, but trust me, I don't think I am once you hear it in its entirety. So the reason why I'm talking about schizophrenic is if you talk to anybody schizophrenic, they would tell you that they hear voices and certain things would trigger that voice. Now, those certain things that trigger those voices start to become legal vices in the reality from music, television, certain drugs, and so forth that would allow the person who has a riff, because schizophrenic, that's German, I believe. Schiz is German and it means tear, right? Like a rip, right? Um, so frantic, schizophrenic. I forget what the other part means. I could probably Google it and pull it up on here so we could look at it, the etymology of it. But the rip is a rip in your mental fabric. Now, and three things you didn't know about the yin yang. I'm trying to describe the universe as your mind. And if you rip that universe, there'd be some other realm of reality that would be glaring in and out of that rip, right? And schizophrenic people, they get cues from both realities, this reality and another reality somewhere, right? This is what makes it a problem. So um they exist simultaneously. Some people, the Native Americans said that the people that were schizophrenic, they say they heard the spirits, they heard the voices, and they would do certain rituals and do certain things with them so they could communicate with the other side. But we are in a different matrix where that is not as hard to control from a governmental point of view. So they label it and try to shut it down. We don't need you having a direct connection to the other side. Shame on that, right? So, certain drugs, weed, marijuana, music, TV, all this stuff is a way to communicate to a certain type of mind to make them move and do shit unbeknownst to themselves. And in so many stories that depending on how old you are, that a lot of famous killers, Timothy McVeigh, I think he was like a bomber or some type. There's all this MK Ultra when they talk about the military, CIA doing stuff to people, CIA, Central Intelligence Association. If you lay man down, you will see the central line, which leads to the biggest part of your intelligence. So even for them to call it the CIA, every time I hear that, I think about like the brain and nerves. Like, so this is the mind of America is the CIA. This is the security. This is what's allowed to be done. So whatever is being done is for the benefit of the head of this nation, which is the CIA and other little entities known and unknown to us, right? So I got this situation. I'll be doing the recording. It does about half hour, and uh, I could easily continue it, but I like to keep it within these half hour pockets. Um, but we got about 10 minutes left. I was about to jump into another thing, but let's backflip on to the schizophrenic. I think that's very interesting. But mind you, I'm not no expert. I don't know how to tell you to deal with a schizophrenic loved one. I don't know what to tell you. They, after a certain age, they become self-aware, and then they would know how to like somewhat police it, depending on up how far away they are. In the movie It, they had a scene when the kid was getting getting abused by his dad, and he was a little rough type of kid. He had a little pocket knife, and he came home and the cartoon was coming on TV, and he looked at the cartoon, and the cartoon said, "Do it, do it." And he was like, "Do what?" And then the clown came up and was like, "Do it, do it." And he pretty much like the TV in his mind, the TV was telling him to kill his dad. Dad on the couch, laid back, head all back, neck all ready for it. You know what I mean? He walk up and stab the dad in the neck. Now, in the movie, they would show us this, and to some people, that doesn't have any, it doesn't mean anything to anybody. And to some people, that's so spooky, so truth. So that's how easy this reality is to be played with. And there's magicians, there's wizards, there are directors, there are producers, there are sound cue engineers, people that specialize in communicating with your subconscious mind. All right. And that is where this reality is. This is what data mining is all about. This is what the cryptocurrency ties in. This is what predictive behavior is, how your phone is giving you products that you whisper about, that you thought about, that's in your circumference. Is how shit is happening. It's all about getting as much information about you as they can, so that they can find a way to either police you or pump you up with products. You understand? So it's a mental game. You have to keep your mental faculties sharp at all times. You need to put your kids through some type of mental dojo where, because keep it all the way authentic, man. Um, you know, depending on how you see it, right? You can use what you see to help you understand what you can't see, right? Makes sense. As above, so below. So if your kid is socially introverted and hooked to a phone, this is already the preliminary makeup of someone that could lead to a form of addiction and another level, right? So it's good that you put in your child's mental toolbox other ways that they can soothe themselves in the reality without the electronic stimulation. Now, I know between working and so forth how hard that could be, especially if you, the parent, have a thing for the phone also, right? Now, because it's 2024 and my mindset is going towards business, I have to always put a piece of business in these things to help remind me and also encourage you to get a little more savvy on business. Your children is a business. Learn how to communicate and put vital information in their heads so that they don't just become a consumer. You understand? They have to be kings and queens like you think they are. But you just can't think that. You just can't have it in your chest. You just can't do that. They have to go through something. You have to put them through something unpleasant. 9 out of 10, because the kid doesn't fucking know. All right. So you're going to do this. You're going to strengthen them up. You're going to do it. You're going to pass it to them so that they can do it. All right. So this is how you make up for all the prior family errors that came before you, generational curses, generational the same behavior. It's like a curse because you want to do better, you want more, but you ain't doing nothing. You don't know how. And you just for that little bit of time, you did. It's like a spell. A spell got something to do with time and it got something to do with behavior. So in a certain amount of time and behavior, and you're not operating at your own will, your own capacity, your own everything, then you are under a spell. You know how many children are waking up in jail as a result from being under a spell? How many people are losing their children as a result of under a spell? How many kids are on drugs and sex and so forth? It's a spell. I don't care how it sounds anymore. I'm not gonna try to find another better word. You do that. It's a fucking spell. They're using magic because they're not. The magic gives them deniability. It gives them, it makes them come outside and say, "Who me? Not me. I'm just. Who me? Not me. I'm just. Who me? Not me. I'm just." And that's what it is. This is business. It's entertainment. They got all these different names to tell you this shit, but yet they know because they don't do it to every race. Every race doesn't get the same level of usury to sell that story as they do with us. And every race doesn't buy that story as easily as we do. You know, so give that some consideration. Oh, so the business part of it is handling your business. There's a way that you can look at the Bible through a business sense too, right? Through because that's what business is based off. It's based off of some form of law, and that law has to reflect around the ethics of it all, the God givenness. That's why the Constitution and business and all that is all within the same post. So the Bible, Constitution, and corporate law is all that big pocket of what they're trying to preserve, and that intangible thing that they're trying to keep like that. It has to have tangible shit around it in order for it to be not touched. You have to put shit around it and say, don't touch, don't touch, don't touch, don't touch, don't touch, don't touch, don't touch. And then now this thing is just living because it can't be touched. It doesn't have anything to hold on to. It doesn't have any pockets. It just exists in our minds. So with that said, it's your boy NFOMURK leaving y'all with a strong yeah though. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. Talk to me, I talk back. Peace. Breaker. Say code breaker. Code breaker. Hey, say thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. Code breaker. Code breaker.